So, Jennifer, you were in high school in your first serious relationship when you found out that you were pregnant. What happened?
We were high school sweethearts. We were just getting ready to finish grade 12. And just towards the end of our grade 12 year, I found out I was pregnant. And my first reaction was joy because I thought I loved him and I thought he loved me. But my parents' reaction was devastating. They were like, this is the worst thing that can happen. My worst nightmare come true was what my mother was saying. And the boyfriend, of course, didn't seem very thrilled either. So I was kind of alone with my little blip of joy there.
And the day you eventually had an abortion, tell us about how that happened. You were basically told by your parents.
Yeah, it was actually my father. He made the decision. It had nothing to do with me, my boyfriend, my mother. Even my boyfriend's mother was concerned about, her son's future, his university, his career. But my dad just said abortion, and that's the end of it. So because we had to keep it quiet in the family, my mother dropped me off at the hospital early in the morning, and my father picked me up at the end of the day. And because I was 18 and I remember signing the papers, I took full responsibility for it. But my heart was in my throat. I really didn't want to do it.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, as clear as day, I can remember the operating room. It was very cold, and the nurses were bustling about, doing what had to be done before I was put out. And I looked at one of the nurses, and I just said, it'll be over soon, right? But what I wanted to say was, please tell me there's another way. And they put me out, and it just seemed like moments later I was awake and lying in a room feeling empty. And I remained in that hospital bed all day until my father finished work at 5 to come pick me up. So I had a lot of time to think about what I had done and wondering about the other women around me. Did they know what I had just done, or had they done the same thing?
Alone.
Alone. Yeah, no boyfriend there, no mom, no dad. This was a decision that affected all of us.
You say that everyone felt better but you.
Yeah, it was like it never happened to anybody else. Nobody asked me how I felt, how I was doing, physically, emotionally. Their problem was solved. And this is something I continued to struggle with, and there was evidence of that post-traumatic stress even just a year later when I tried to take my own life. The relationship had fallen apart, as many relationships do when there's an abortion involved. And I felt so hopeless.
You've gone through a lot in your life. We can't go through everything, Jen, but being raped as well, and getting pregnant as well, and determining that no, you're not going to abort that child. When did you realize that these were all symptoms of post-abortion? This was all based on losing your first baby.
Well, I was 23, and this is, again, where I came to a crossroads where there was just so much pain there. I remember lying on my bedroom floor crying and writhing in pain. And I almost sensed the Lord saying to me, just come to me. I will forgive you. Give it to me. And I rejected him. I didn't want forgiveness. I felt I deserved wrath. I deserved all the pain I was feeling. And it was one of the most difficult times in my life. But when I got pregnant for the second time, I knew that I didn't want to have an abortion again. And even though my father said abortion, I said no, not this time. And unfortunately, this time I was involved with an abusive man who I didn't want to be with, and I didn't want to continue the relationship. So I had even greater concerns. I was concerned for my safety, to be honest with you. And I thought, well, if I have this child, I'll never be rid of him. But I knew abortion wasn't an option based on my experience. So I sought out a pregnancy care center in Markham, and they helped me to look at what parenting might look like, what adoption might look like. And that pregnancy was kind of the beginning of the road to recovery for me, because I chose to parent that child, and I had to get myself healthy. It was actually about a year after she was born that came to a head, and they said, okay, you need to get healthy. You need to get on meds for antidepressant. You need to get therapy. And that's what I did. And it took at least a year of medication and therapy until I leveled out, let's say.
What is one aspect of having an abortion that people, specifically women, don't understand about the residual, the collateral damage that can impact you? Because did you know that you could suffer, through depression, and all of these things could happen? I mean, many times when we hear about abortion, it's this procedure that you have to get rid of an unplanned pregnancy, and then you move on with your life, and everybody's happy.
That's all you're ever told.
Right. And so what don't maybe people understand about just the collateral damage that can come from that?
There's actually a lot of physical complications that can come with abortion that most people don't realize. Depending on the procedure and how she reacts, you may not be able to have kids again. So you think, well, I'm too young now, my career's just taking off, I'll have kids later. Well, you may not have that option because of the surgeries and the scarring.
Emotionally as well?
Oh, definitely emotionally. And again, that's why even when my daughter was born, I still was not in a healthy place. To be perfectly honest with you, I had to have Children's Aid step in and say, get healthy and deal with your stuff. And I found an amazing counselor in Toronto, and like I said, I needed prescription drugs to help me through that depression. And I went for weekly counseling, and it made me a better mother, but a better woman too. And I don't know where I'd be today without that intervention.
You also say Jesus has played a big role in your healing and realizing that while others weren't there, that Jesus was.
Absolutely. So I believe with all my heart that night when I was 19 in the ER, alone in that room, I believe he was there with me the whole time. And I believe he spared me from all the alcohol and drugs that I took because he loved me and he had a plan for my life. And when I was 23, writhing on my bedroom floor, he was there with open arms, trying to love me and woo me to himself. And I didn't want his love. I didn't want his forgiveness. But when I opened up that door and I let him in and I let him forgive me, I could start to forgive myself. I can't tell you about that kind of love and how he filled my heart and made me whole and restored me. That is just, to me, that's the most amazing thing, because I went from being a complete wretch, unable to function and unable to even be a mother properly. But he restored me. He restored my soul.